Let's bring in the former acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf. Chairman Wolf, President Trump was elected on a platform of, returning control to the U.S. southern border. The folks in Los Angeles, including the mayor there, don't seem to appreciate what the president has been trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, but we know that L.A. is a sanctuary jurisdiction. In fact, large parts of California are. So, they have never been supportive of President Trump and during his first term and the immigration measures that he took, and are certainly not supportive here in the second term. But let me tell you who is supportive. The vast majority of Americans do not want to see another border crisis like we saw under President Biden, and they want folks that don't have a legal right to be here, millions of illegal aliens removed and repatriated back to their home countries. And that's what President Trump and his team are delivering on.
The numbers don't lie. I mean, the number of encounters at the border has dropped significantly since President Trump came into office.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And if you remember, President Biden said, well, everything he could do, he was doing. He needed Congress to act. He needed new authorities. He needed all these different things. When now the American people know that's not true. That was a lie. All we needed is a new president that had the will and the ability to actually enforce immigration law. And we see that that's happening on those borders. So as you said, apprehensions are at an all-time low, and removals continue to grow and increase over the weeks as well.
Meantime, the president got what seems like a rare win in court over his ability to continue to keep the National Guard there in Los Angeles. Give us your assessment of what the court has done and what the president is doing.
Yeah, I think this goes to the fact that the president nationalized the California Guard there to quell the riots that were occurring there in Los Angeles. And of course, he was taken to court as he normally is in most things that he's done. But I would say that he's actually winning. The Trump administration is actually winning more than they are losing, particularly on the immigration side. And so what this court, the Ninth Circuit, which has historically been a very liberal appellate court, 3-0, they ruled unanimously that President Trump did in fact have the authority, did have the right to nationalize the National Guard there. And so, all these people, including Governor Newsom, saying, well, he doesn't have the right, he doesn't have the legal backing to do it. They are all wrong, of course. He does have it, and the court says that he has it.
You heard the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, there complaining about, the federal government sending in troops, parachuting in. She said they didn't do that literally, but they came into Los Angeles. And then she says, you leave. Well, if the powers in Los Angeles aren't able to keep control of the streets, what are the feds supposed to do?
Yeah. Let me just start off by saying the mayor there is an absolute disgrace. About a week ago, I called for her resignation because she has been very clear. She has said that if ICE hadn't done their enforcement operations, none of this would occur. What she is saying there is that federal officers should ignore the law. They should not enforce the law. They should not keep criminal, illegal aliens out of Los Angeles. That is what the mayor is saying. If that's what she's saying, she doesn't deserve to hold that office. So I don't give a lot of stock into what she says. She also says that the National Guard and the Trump administration is actually instigating the violence. The only people instigating the violence are the people burning cars and looting and rioting. This idea that somehow law enforcement, you're going to accuse law enforcement of instigating things out there is absolutely ridiculous. What we actually see out there is the National Guard is doing their job. The violence is being reduced over time. And these are law enforcement officers that go to work every day and have no idea if they're going to go home and see their family because of the situation and the violence that politicians like the mayor, as well as Governor Newsom, talks about ICE and the way they do.
The money trail is an interesting component of all this. A lot of these protesters are not necessarily organic. I'm really upset about what ICE is doing. Where does the money come from to buy them gas masks and to fund some of their activities?
Well, it comes from left-wing backed organizations, right? We saw this with the No Kings rally, right, last weekend. And if you look at who funded something like that, well, it was a variety of left-wing C3, C4, C5 organizations that fund a lot of political donations, right? And so when you see large protests like this, because we saw it in 2020 around the country, it may start organically, and there may be, you know, a few hundred, maybe. But when you start seeing thousands of folks, you can almost guarantee that these are professional protesters. They're getting paid. They're getting supplied by other groups that come in there. And the Trump Justice Department and others should really investigate that. I know they're looking at this. This is something that we didn't do very well in 2020, but this is something that needs to be done, because the people that are supplying gas masks, for instance, and other things that they know will be used for violent activities should also be held accountable.
Chad Wolf, who formerly ran the Department of Homeland Security for a time, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.